The Winter War by Priscilla Shirer with Gina Detweiler. Chapter 16, Home at Last. Levi sat in the back of the car waiting for his mom to emerge from the hospital entrance with his dad. He played a game on his phone to pass the time and squash his nervousness. He tried to picture Mr. J.R. walking out of the hospital hand in hand with his mom, straight and tall as always. He longed for that. When the sliding doors finally opened, Levi saw his dad in a wheelchair, pushed by his mom. His heart sank. But then Mr. J.R. stood up, a little slowly, but he stood on his own 2 feet. He grabbed his wife's hand and she walked with him toward the car. They were moving really slowly, but that was probably because there were still ice patches and snow on the sidewalk. Levi jumped out of the car. "Hey, Dad," he said, running over to him. "Levi," said Mr. J.R. He grabbed Levi's head and pulled him close. Levi used to feel nearly smothered by his dad's hugs, but not this time. He wrapped his arms around his dad, careful not to hurt him. The three of them walked the last few steps to the car. "Still a lot of snow around," Mr. J.R. said, as Levi's mom helped him into the passenger seat. "Yeah," said Levi. "Usually snow in their area melted pretty quickly, but it remained cold and the snow had stayed. They said on the news that we got 40 inches. 40, huh?" Mr. J.R. took a deep breath. "Not surprised. They had to bring snow plows in from other states to clear it all. School was out for an entire week." "Man, I missed a lot," said Mr. J.R. "Everyone got their seatbelts on?" asked his mom. Mr. J.R. reached for his belt, but had trouble buckling it. Levi's mom had to help him. "Still a little sore," was all he said. As they drove home, Levi's mom told her husband that so many people were waiting to come and see him that she had to start an appointment list. "Let them all come at once," said Mr. J.R. "The more the merrier." He coughed slightly. The sound made Levi's hair stand on end. "What's this I hear about Xavier?" "Oh, yeah. Guess he took a bad fall at the game last night," said Levi's mom. "Torn ACL. He's out for the season." "Oh, that's a shame," said Mr. J.R. "That's got to be tough for Xavier, especially after he messed up the battle," Levi thought to himself, though he didn't say that out loud. He was trying not to blame Xavier too much. After all, Levi hadn't really been much help in the battle, being so distracted by the news he had just got about his dad's illness. He wished he could get a do-over, replay the battle, stay with Ivy and those Finnish twins instead of following Xavier. If he had been thinking more clearly, he might have even been able to talk Xavier out of doing what he did. He also wished he had had a vision of what was really there, as he had at the Battle of Cedar Hill against the Glommers. Then he had seen the unseen warriors aligned with them in battle. That was the gift Ruach had given him. But at the Bridge of Tears, he'd seen nothing. Maybe it was because he hadn't even really been looking. Levi's mom started talking about all the flowers and baked goods that had come from Mr. J.R., especially from the parents of the rec center kids who were so grateful to him for all he had done for them. He provided their kids a safe place to hang out. He had encouraged them to work hard and keep fighting for what was right. He was like a dad to many kids who didn't have a dad of their own. Levi began to wonder, for the first time, why his dad did those things. Why he decided to give up his career as a salesman for a big company to work a part-time job at the rec center, coaching basketball and helping kids with their problems. Levi suddenly remembered the metal scar on his dad's elbow that Ruach had healed the last time Mr. J.R. had been in a horse with them. That scar had been a reminder of something in his past he had never told Levi about. Maybe he was still ashamed or embarrassed. Maybe it was something so terrible he couldn't even tell his own son about it. When they arrived home, Levi helped his dad get out of the car and walk into the house. Mr. J.R.'s hand rested upon his shoulder, giving him an assurance that everything was going to be okay now. "I don't know about you, but I'm hungry," said Mr. J.R. The house was full of flowers and gifts. Handmade get well cards graced every surface. The kitchen table was set for three, with a big soup tureen in the middle and a basket of warm bread. The smell was heavenly. "Looks like some angels have been here already," Mr. J.R. said with a deep chuckle. "Although if those angels really loved me, they would have brought me a double-stacked cheeseburger and a bucket of French fries." "Well, the angels know you are only allowed to have soup right now," said Levi's mom with a grin. The three of them sat down at the table. Mr. J.R. said grace, as he usually did, and Levi's mom started dishing out the soup. "Gumbo, my favorite," said Mr. J.R. Levi's stomach had been all in knots, but the aroma of the food awakened his appetite. He dug into the soup and grabbed a roll from the basket. He glanced up once to see his mom smiling at him. Then she reached over and grabbed her husband's hand. "Do you think you'll be able to come back to the wreck soon?" Levi asked. "I mean, everyone wants to see you." "Oh, I'm going to try," said his dad. "How are the kids doing?" "I don't know. I haven't been around them much." "I see." Mr. J.R. considered his son for a long moment. "Well, I need to get back to the hospital for rounds," said Levi's mom, glancing at her watch. You two be okay for a while?" "Sure," said Levi. "I'll take care of everything. I'm trusting you to make sure your dad doesn't go out and start shooting baskets," she said with a stern smile. "He's got to behave himself until the sutures are removed." "Okay." Dr. Arthur said her goodbyes and left the house. Levi started to clear the table. There was a long silence before Mr. J.R. spoke. "Why don't you tell me about the battle?" Levi started telling him all the details, including the way Xavier had made a bad decision and led them all into a trap. He couldn't hide his own bitterness at this turn of events. "I understand your feelings, Levi, but wouldn't it be better to think about what you can do to change things rather than focus on what other people did or didn't do?" Levi sighed. "Maybe." He sat back down in his chair, slumping a little. "It just made me mad. Xavier is always the leader. He thinks he knows how to do everything better than the rest of us. Ruach seems to think so too. He even gave him a gift." "Oh? What was it?" "Some big old stick." "I see." Mr. J.R. sat back in his chair, smiling a little. "A big old stick," he murmured to himself. He seemed to be thinking of something else, as if the mention of the stick had triggered some long-forgotten memory. Then he heaved a big sigh. "Well, I'm sure that'll come in handy one way or another. Hey, son, help me up the stairs, will you? Think I'll take a nap." Levi swallowed a lump in his throat. His big, strong father needed help climbing the stairs. But he got up and once again put his arm around his father's waist and helped him get to his room. "We'll talk more later," Mr. J.R. said. "I love you, son." "I love you too, Dad." The bedroom door closed. Levi turned around to head back down the stairs, but something was in his way. The crest.